Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sport Network. We have a great show for you today. We will be covering Manchester United defeating City in the FA Cup final, Spain, their chances at the Euros, talk about the Canada job, talk about the Canada national team job for Jesse Marsch, how hard that'll be, talk about Antonio Conte reportedly being close to becoming the manager of Napoli. And then make sure you stick around for the end of the show where I'll be giving you my thoughts on Chelsea approaching Enzo Maresca for the managerial job. Before we start, I would like to ask you to like and follow the show. We got a number of questions from viewers that come in during the show. So to ensure that your questions get read on the air, I ask that you use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net with your questions. This puts your question at the top of the list so that I can see it and also really helps the show. So again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net. Manchester United defeat Manchester City in the FA Cup final, and I have to say, I do need to eat a little bit of crow, swallow a little bit of crow on this one, because before the game last Friday, I came on here and I essentially said Manchester United don't even have a puncher's chance in this. They have no shot at all. I came in with that mentality, and I didn't give Manchester United any sort of opportunity. But it was their day, and it wasn't City's. And sometimes that's football, Derbies, they could go either way all the time, no matter where both teams are league position-wise. It can always go either way. And I didn't think the disparity between the two, especially based on the seasons these two has had, was just too wide for the derby to be what gets in the way of Manchester City potentially hosting a double. I will give myself a little bit of credit in this part of it when I just talked about Man United's main chance that they have in this is the counter-attack, and it's the pace that they have up front with Garnacho, with Marcus Rashford. And that really gave Manchester City problems in that first half, despite holding the ball for 70% or whatever crazy amount in that first half. United had a few opportunities on the counter. Garnacho, he got a goal through a mistake, but it came through his pace. And in this sort of levels that you're in right now, United are going to have to, United can't just, United can't just go and outplay City. They're going to need to take advantage in transition, and they're going to need to get a little bit of lucky, which they did. City didn't come with their finishing boots, didn't come with that decisiveness, that cutting edge that we usually see from Manchester City. They missed a few opportunities. Haaland hit the post. It was just like everything was just, it was just that kind of day where just everything just felt off for Manchester City. While United, on the other hand, they were very, very solid. They played their best game. The passion, the desire, the fight, the hunger, the mental strength and resilience. Because, you know what? I'll say this. Whether he's gone or not, it'll be decided within the next couple of days. It seems like, afterwards, right after the final, it seemed like he was still definitely out of there. But over the last 24, 48 hours, it seems like a kind of, there's been some life in this for Ten Hag. Maybe he might have a chance to retain his job. That'll be remain to determine. But what it wasn't remain to determine was those players on the pitch yesterday. They fought for him. They died for him on the pitch. They did everything they could for Ten Hag. You saw the post-game scenes with Lisandro lifting him up. Ten Hag feeling a sense of relief, even though that's not, he doesn't know that's his job. He doesn't know yet whether or not that'll save his job, but you could just see the passion that was there. And really hard to compartmentalize all what's going on while preparing for an FA Cup final. It's not the easiest thing in the world. We'll go back into Ten Hag. We'll discuss that angle later on. But as far as the game, City had 19 shots to United's 11. Only 4 shots on target for Manchester City, for 5 shots for Manchester United. Just your City weren't clinical enough. Erling Haaland, he barely got a foot into the game. He was just a little bit off. Opportunities that he wasn't able to bury. Phil Foden, he was lively in certain areas, but he wasn't really getting in the most dangerous of areas that really, that could really benefit the team. De Bruyne, he got subbed off early in that second half, but De Bruyne, he wasn't in the game. He really struggled to get a foot on the ball, and when he did get on the ball, he just didn't look like himself. And when you have a team with the quality that City has, you're not afraid. Pep Guardiola is not afraid to take out his best player, and that's what he did with Kevin De Bruyne. Jeremy Doku, he came in and off the bench, and he was very, very lively. He was very, very lively. He was on dangerous areas. He ended up scoring a goal, a bad, really, really bad mistake for Onana, who's made plenty of mistakes all season. And if you told me that Onana could do would make a howler mistake and United would still win, again, it just shows, the dedication, the work rate, the effort that these United players put into this game. They all really put a shift in. The mentality was amazing. Defensively, they defended for their lives. This is a Lisandro Martinez that hasn't played much football all season, and he's going up against a Haaland, and not only did he get his positioning right the entire game, but he was physically very, very aggressive, and very limited Erling Haaland's physical nature to dominate a game as the princess up top. Rafael Varane, he was very, very good. This is his last ever game for Manchester United. Kobe Mainoo, he was very, very good. Controlled the midfield, and he also, he had the capacity to make the late runs into the box. He was on the end of a ball to get a goal. Fantastic team goal, by the way, on that second goal. It was just everything that United want is, the way that they moved the ball quickly. It was a very, very good team, beautiful goal. This is, it's still been a dreadful season for Manchester United. You can't argue that. It's been a very, very dreadful season. And it's been a frustrating season. An injury-riddled season, but also a frustrating season. But this winning a trophy is a very, very good accomplishment for them. Winning the FA Cup final, and you know what? The amazing thing is, it's all fine margins in this sport, because, if it's not a pinky nail away of an offsides decision by Coventry in extra time in the semi-final, this conversation would not be happening, and Ten Hag would have been fired by now if it wasn't for a pinky toenail margin of being offside, just literally by this much, a toenail offsides. And that's enough to potentially give Erik ten Hag more life, and gives Manchester United a trophy, an FA Cup trophy. This is 2 trophies in 2 years. They went on a ridiculous amount of time under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and the last 2 years of Mourinho's reign, where they didn't win a single trophy at United. They were in a very, very long time. It was a trophy drought for Manchester United, and Erik ten Hag came in and he's won 2 on the bounce. Carabao Cup last year, FA Cup final this year, and it's hard to ignore some of the things he's had to deal with when you talk about the injury-riddled campaign that he had this season, when you talk about having to deal with the Ronaldo dilemma to start off the season last season. He's had a tremendous amount of hardships to go through. Now, this season has not been good enough. The style of play has been dreadful. And, it's really been unacceptable the way United have performed this season. But, they do with this win get into Europa League football. So he has that. That is something that United have to look forward to, Europa League football, which also gives them a backup option for next year's Champions League. Despite the fact that they'll they'll be expected to finish within the Champions League spots with the players coming back. That's just the expectation at Manchester United. But it gives you a backup option to get into the Champions League by winning the Europa League. Now, does that mean I would keep Eric Ten Hag? I don't know. That's for United but to decide. But it's definitely United is coming. Some of the fans, not minority, but there's a few amount of fans, the players, the staffing, and all that. They're coming together, and there is a push for, Ten Hag to stay, and there's a lot he has had to deal with. So I don't mind for. As far as Manchester City, they win the Premier League, brilliant season, and all that, but only one trophy this season. The expectations they create for themselves. This is not the best of seasons. They had a very, very good Premier League season, but the expectation they created for themselves. I remember Pep Guardiola, he was saying in his press conference, oh yeah, we just lose the FA Cup. Now we're not, then that was a bad season. It's not how it works. But at the end of the day, the success is determined by trophies. And at the end of the day, one trophy for the amount of money that they have and the expectation, in the way that they're a victim of their own success, the expectation they have created for themselves, one trophy is not enough to be rendered a successful season, despite the fact that they had a brilliant Premier League campaign. It's just, for Manchester City, it's just what it is. It is what it is. We're going to take a short break here. When we come back, I'm going to discuss Spain's chances at the Euros.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, I'm losing shit. A stupid myth, you choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Before the break, I discussed Manchester United defeating City in the FA Cup final. We move on to discuss Spain and their chances at this summer. They came out with their preliminary squad for these European Championships. And this is a squad that's filled with experience in the team. Oh, by the way, it's a 30-man provisional squad, so there's going to be a few cuts here and there, but this was a team with experience from guys that have played in international tournaments for Spain, but it also has a nice youthful element with some very talented players coming in. But in terms of the experience, you got a guy like Unai Simon, who's now had multiple tournaments as the number 1 goalkeeper for Spain. Guys like Dani Carvajal, Jesus Navas, that goes all the way back to playing all the way back to Euro 2012. So this is very hugely experienced Jesus Navas. Aymeric Laporte, Nacho, who gives you a lot of, flexibility. Rodri, Fabian Ruiz, Llorente, Dani Olmo, Alvaro Morata, Jose Lu, who doesn't have experience with Spain, but he's an older player and he just has experience just in general, and Mikel Oyarzabal. And And then you got the youthful elements of the likes of, Pedri. He's back playing for Spain. That's always there. But guys like Lamine Yamal and Pau Kubarasi, who's had a very, very good season at not Kubarasi. I was talking about Lamine Yamal, who's had a very, very good season at Barcelona. But Pau Kubarasi, who's relatively unknown, but he's a center back. He's 17, and he's part of La Masia, plays Barcelona B team, and has started to play more for this Barcelona first team. And there's a little bit of an unknown element with him. You get goal scorers in Ferran Torres, who can give you a little bit of an option. Joselu, who's another option there. Alvaro Morata, who actually had a very, very good start to the season. He has dipped off, but he's an option there. And then Yamal, who's had a brilliant season. Nico Williams, he's a little bit of a different element, someone that can stretch the back line, provides verticality, pace to get in behind. Very, very, very good quality. Will go up against defenders one-on-one and take them on and open up space for his teammates by beating someone one-on-one and forcing the defense to shift to allow someone to, make a run in or all that. He gives you that nature to him. You got Rodri, who's been playing like the best player in the world, a composer, someone who will dictate the tempo, the pace. He will compose the midfield. He will be the Busquets of this midfield. Quality on the ball, comfortable on the ball, will be the first outlet, trying to play out the way that Spain do with their possession-oriented, playing out of the back. He'll be the main guy that's picking the ball up from the defense. Just, being really the key of this team. And this is the first tournament that he's had that key to his team, because Busquets, he's been involved and has forced Rodri to play in a center back position or this or that to get him in there. But now this is Rodri's first tournament where he is the guy for Spain, playing his primary position, being the composer for for Spain. So, I look for him to have a huge, huge tournament at the Euros. Pedri, he's been in and out, ever since he started to get injuries and being overplayed. But he definitely is a guy that can make an impact this Euros, just with the quality that he has. Lamine Yamal, his ability, the way he's risen up, he really has a chance to be the star breakout of this tournament. Very, very good, technically gifted. He's not going to get bullied, has a little bit of weight on him too. He's just a unique talent, Lamine Yamal is, and he's one of many talents that come up from La Masia. And, I'll like to see the tournament he has. And then defensively, the strength, Dani Carvajal, he's still playing for a team, reached Champions League final. They're starting right back. The thing is, with their center-back partnership, that's the thing that I am going to be very interested to see. Now, Aymeric Laporte, he has been playing in the Saudi League. He still gets into the Spanish team, though. Despite that, he's probably, I wouldn't know because I don't watch the Saudi League game in, game out. But if he's getting in the squad, he's definitely maintaining the levels. And he's not one of those guys that are going there over the hill. He went at 29, 30 years old. So, he's just, he wants to continue his playing football in another league. But I think he'll be starting. But next to him is where I'm interested to see where they go. There's where they go. Danny Vivian, he played against Colombia in their 1-0 loss. He's had a pretty decent season this season. And then there's the Ruben Lenormand, the center back for Real Sociedad. A little bit more experience in there. Him being 27 years old. He played in the last friendly where they played against Brazil. So, it's a question mark. Who's really going to play there? And then the left back position, Alex Grimaldo. He's had a brilliant season at Leverkusen. Not just his ability to not just his ability to defend, but his ability to get up, the capacity he had to go up and down, provide assists, get in the box and score goals. He was really beneficial. Him and the other, and Firmpong, they were both very, very pivotal to their team with their ability, but playing a little bit different style of football here at, Spain, at Leverkusen. He had a little bit more of a wing back role. The way he had free nature, free ability to, make the late runs into the box. Here, they're gonna play a back four. There's no really playing the back three with two wing backs. So who they go with in that right back position, or that left back position, I'll be very, very interested. Cucurella, he's an option. He's had a decent end to the season with Chelsea, but this is a guy that Luis de la Fuente really, really knows. He was the starting left back for the Spain Olympic team in 2021 in Tokyo, where they reached the final. That team was coached by Luis de la Fuente, so Cucurella is a guy that he really, really likes. So he's definitely on a good wavelength with Luis de la Fuente. Pedro Porro, right back, him not being in the squad is a little bit of a surprise, just because he has been, he's been very, pretty not pivotal, but he's been, kind of a regular playing for Spain in the last, he played in the Colombia friendly, he's been played a few times in the European Championship, and, it seemed like he was in a very good position to earn a call-up for these upcoming Euros. And he also had a strong end to the season for Tottenham. He had 2 goals in his last 3 games, but he was not one of the 30 players on this provisional squad, where he took Dani Carvajal and Jesus Navas, a 38-year-old, who does give you the experience element. But I was very surprised by that. I'm actually very, very surprised by that. But there's also that's a decision that Luis de la Fuente essentially, he thought he was best for the team. Maybe he feels like there's the experience of Jesus Navas and his ability to go up and down will give you a little bit of a his attacking nature will give you a little bit more of a different element. Maybe he wants to have that flexibility of being able to go with a back 3, so he can play a guy like Jesus Navas and Grimaldo, because they're both very, very good, strong wing backs. Despite the fact that Jesus Navas is 38, he still had a very good season for Sevilla, playing that wing back role. Maybe he has that ability to play the wing back role, because he is a former winger. So maybe that's why he liked to go in that way. And then he has 2 more defensive fullbacks in Cucurella and Carvajal, and then if he wants to play a little bit more, have wing backs in, he can bring in a Grimaldo and Jesus Navas to play a little bit with a different element to their game. I don't know, but maybe he's trying to have flexibility, play different systems. But I definitely think Spain do have a very good chance with the squad that they have to potentially win the Euros. We're going to take a short break here. When we come back, I'm going to discuss Jesse Marsch and his quick turnaround at this Canadian men's national team job.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search. Basketball podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Before the break, we discussed Spain and them potentially their chances at the European Championships. We now have to discuss Jesse Marsch. I talked about how he was recently, we talked about previously when he was appointed as Canadians men's national team job. We discussed that. We discussed the challenges. And I discussed, the issues I had with Canada making the decision late. Now, there was a little bit more that I want to add to that side of it. Canada were in a very, their Canadian soccer organization were in a very tough position. They filed for bankruptcy and there's a lack of funds and their ability to go out and get a coach and to be able to afford it. So they actually had to get help from the MLS teams in Canada, the Montreal Impacts, the Vancouver Whitecaps, all that. And to make this possible, in fact, the Canadian men's national team coach is actually, his title is the something MLS national team, the Canadian MLS national team coach, something ridiculous like that. They added MLS to the title because they're fun. I don't know, it's complicated. But yes, he is gonna be the coming in. He's gonna take over. And he actually had made some statements regarding this, this difficult situation Canada finds himself in, with him not having that much to prepare for the Copa America and these friendlies that they have against the Netherlands and France. He said himself, if I have a preseason with a club team, we would schedule a first or two against an opponent where it was a little bit easier, where we could have success, conceded Marsch. And that was after he announced his, 26 roster for the for June and basically the Copa America squad. And then he said, "What a massive challenge! Even when looking at the difficult challenges in my career, trying to get this little 10 days right will be difficult. I want to give them enough information for them to understand how we're going to move forward, but I don't want to overwhelm them when they step on the pitch. They've got a million things in their mind." Marsch really emphasizes his desire for wanting to set up a team identity, and his first, squad of people had a very similar squad to the last time Canada, played with their interim coach. Was 20 of the 26 names the same. Alphonso Davies, Jonathan David, Tajon Buchanan, they're gonna all be back, and it's been a tough start not tough start, but it's been a very complicated start for Jesse Marsch in, essentially a week after getting the job, having to come out with his first squad, a big squad, and the fact that it's for Copa America. He said, this is a quote from him, "It's been a lot of work and a lot of discussions, but all really good and helpful for me to have a good assessment as to where we are and where we need to go. What will be really important here is to develop an identity within the team and engage multiple people that we feel like can ultimately be a benefit to what we'll try to achieve with the national team now, in a month from now, 6 months from now, and certainly 2 years from now." And talking about that 2 years from now, Canada will be one of the co-hosts for the World Cup. They'll get to play all their group stage games at the World Cup. They'll automatically qualify for that World Cup. And we talk about this being a huge opportunity for the U.S. to grow football, soccer into their nation. This is equally just as big of an opportunity for Canada to grow soccer in a growing culture for Canada as well. Now, this is difficult. Very, very difficult for Canada. Very, very difficult for Jesse Marsch to come in and implement his system. Because keep in mind, he speaks about, the fact that they're playing the Netherlands and France in their first two games, and they're doing this in Europe. And he said that's a difficult start for them. But to be honest, these are friendlies. These are friendlies to prepare for the Copa America. So for me, I don't know. I've had a little bit of a lack of respect for friendlies in my entire life of watching international football. I'm not saying I don't care about friendlies, and I especially think these friendlies coming up before international tournaments, the ones right before, they're very, very important to create some sort of cohesion and just to go in on a little bit of a positive note if you could get a good result here and there. But, I do realize, at the end of the day, in my head, it's still a friendly to me. Like, I was watching a friendly game. I think it was before Euro 2021. I think France were going against Wales. And this Welsh player, after 18 minutes, 19 minutes, somewhere in that margin, early in the game, he ends up getting a red card. And in my mind, I'm watching this just trying to, study these two teams entering the European Championship. And in my mind, I'm just like, oh, what a waste of 60 plus minutes now, or 70 minutes. What a waste of a game happening here, because a red card, in a friendly, it just totally shifts the dynamics of it. Like, the two teams, they can't really prepare the way that they're trying. We can't really get a good look on the prospect of these two teams. And it was just like, oh man, now it's just going to be a waste of time. So, I'm going on this international friendly. So I'm just saying, the fact that he's, Jesse Marsch is really going about these international friendlies, I don't think that's the main concern here. I think the main concern here is the fact that they open up the Copa America against Argentina. Keep in mind, Copa America is crucial for Mexico, USA, and Canada in terms of their development, in terms of getting ready for the World Cup in 2 years. Because these are the only competitive matches these three nations will have between the last World Cup and this and the following World Cup. Now, Nations League, they are competitive and all that, but they truly get much more competitive in the knockout stages. And, okay, so I'm going to refrain that. Besides Nations League, yeah. But what I'm trying to say is, every other nation, they have World Cup qualifiers to prepare for. Canada, US, Mexico, they automatically go straight through into the World Cup. There is no World Cup qualifiers. So these games, these intensity games are very, very important. And they're going to be going up against talented opposition. Because this Copa America will have Argentina, will have Brazil, will have Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, Uruguay. This Copa America will have quality teams that will give these CONCACAF nations a run for their money. So the fact that Canada opened up their Copa America against the defending World Cup champions, Argentina, that will be massive, massive concern for Jesse Marsch. Because if you go into that opening game and you get thumped by Argentina, it kind of sets the tone for how the rest of your the rest of your Copa America might go. In these tournaments, especially in the stage of vulnerability, the Canada, or not just their national team, but the Canada Soccer Federation are in a period, in the period of being vulnerability, you want to get off to a good start to relieve the player, to relieve the stress of the players, to relieve the tension, start creating confidence, to get confidence into the groove, into the team. But not having the time to prepare and implement your tactics just make it that much harder for the Canada national team to do that. So for me, I think Jesse Marsch is really, really up against it at this Copa America. Now they open up their Copa America against Argentina, then they take on Peru and Chile. Now if we go to World Cup qualifiers in Colombia, as I pull up the standings, Peru are bottom of that with 2 draws and 4 losses, and Chile is not that far, third bottom with 1 win, 2 draws, and 3 losses. So when you look at it from that point of view, if you're as a Canada fan, you're going in there with life, because Canada do have talent in their team. And, Canada do have a Tejan Buchanan, and Alfonso Davis, and Jonathan David. Those are 3 teams that will walk into the Peru national team and start from them and be their best players. They'll come into the Chile national team and start for them and be their best players. And so the talent is there for Canada. The profile of players is there. But is the team there? The footballing there? Is the team ready? Is the team unified? And I'm not saying there's problems within the team. I'm saying there's organizational problems just in general that start from the top. And when it starts from the top, it starts sprinkling to the team and all that. So very, very interested to see how this Copa America goes. Now, I think it's very, very, very pivotal that they don't get dumped in that opening game by Argentina. Now, you can lose to the defending champions. If you lose to the defending champions, it's not the end of the world. If you lose 4-0, if you get dumped in the opening game and you hardly get a kick, then you're probably in big, big trouble entering that Peru and Chile game. We're going to take a short break here. When I come back, I'm going to discuss Antonio Conte reportedly being close to becoming the Napoli manager.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Yeah, good. Before the break, we discussed the Canada national team job, for how difficult that would be for Jesse Marsh. We now will be discussing Antonio Conte. He is reportedly close to becoming the manager of Napoli. Antonio Conte is a manager very close to my heart. A lot of managers that came in had success in Chelsea. In fact, not a lot of them, all of them in my entire lifetime of watching Chelsea. I just had a soft spot in my heart for just because they brought success to my team. But Antonio Conte, he is a brilliant manager. He was very, very successful at Inter Milan, Juventus, the Italian national team, Chelsea, and not as successful at Tottenham, but who is? So I'm not going to hold that against him. But Antonio Conte, definitely, he's a manager that has a set ways, has a set style, playing, his traditional back three that turns into a back five, potentially with wing backs. Very, very, defensive, low block, counter-attack in transition football. He has a set style, and he has a set, he can be a little bit difficult to handle in terms of ownership, in terms of his demands, in terms of his personality. He's very, very outgoing, energetic. We've seen him, his touch line, rose with Thomas Tuchel, and we also see the crazy celebrations from him. He's just an emotional, emotional manager. A few years, I had a nickname for him. I called him El Loco, because he is crazy. He could be crazy on the touchline, and we've seen him get spats with Thomas Tuchel, with Ever Banega in the Europa League final. They were going back and forth talking. He was talking to a player, and I love that nature from a manager. That is, that's beautiful. And certain people have certain personalities, and Antonio Conte, for me, is a brilliant personality. And but in terms of this fit, being at Napoli, Napoli, they won the Scudetto last season, and they won it in stupendous fashion. When you look at the way that they did it, it was absolutely brilliant. I mean, it was very, very, it was phenomenal. The rise of players like Kvaratskhelia, Osimhen, the midfielder, the Cameroonian midfielder, he's escaping my mind, but just they had a very, very good season last season, and you cannot deny that. Anguissa, that's what it is. Anguissa, Zielinski. But this season, it's been honestly the worst title defense I've ever seen from a team, finishing 10th in the league, losing 11 games this season. It's 13 wins, 11 losses, dropping points in 25 games this season. 25 games this season, 14 draws and 11 losses. They dropped points in 25 out of the 38 game season. It's just not good enough. It was really a really bad season. Some of the players that had excellent seasons last season, kind of dipped. Di Lorenzo was really bad this season. Kvaratskhelia, not saying he dropped off completely, but didn't have the impact to where he had last season. I still think Osimhen had a very, very good season this season. He's a number 9. The midfield, they didn't really dominate the games like they did last year. And then you could tell it was a different coach, different style. They fired their coach throughout the season, fired multiple coaches. Rudy Garcia trying to implement a little bit of what Luciano Spalletti was trying to do last season. It just completely went astray. And Luciano Spalletti, he is a very, very brilliant manager, and he was missed by them. So now they want to go for a new permanent manager, someone that come in, someone that has experience, someone that has pedigree, championship pedigree, and Antonio Conte has that. But the interesting thing for me in this perspective is Napoli as a team that's kind of deferred a little bit from the Italian, the historic. I know in the Euros they changed it up a little bit, the last Euros that they won, but generally, historically, they have a nature at the Italian national team of playing a little bit more defensive. Not Italian national team, but just Italian football in general, just having a defensive style. But since Antonio Conte, but despite that, Napoli is especially in the last decade or so, they've played more attacking football. When you saw the style of football they played under Maurizio Sarri, when you see how they played under Luciano Spalletti, it's very, very front foot. They want to be they're protagonist football, and now you're bringing in a guy like an Antonio Conte. It's kind of a shift in philosophy, because this is a guy, he'll play a back 3 that turns into a back 5, very, very compact, play in transition, very, very boring football for the neutral. They would play very, very boring defensive football, and it's just very, very different from what previous managers have done at Napoli. So, maybe they're just looking at the fact that they finished 10th. We just want a guy that can get us back up to the top, competing at the top quickly. And Antonio Conte is someone that can do that. There is talent in this team. And obviously, if Antonio Conte of Napoli are, trying to get Antonio Conte, they're willing to, accept his demands of, whatever transfers that he wants or this or that. The fact that he wants says in the players coming in. He doesn't want to just be a coach. He wants to be someone in control of the team, be the full general manager of the team, dictating transfers, wants to bring in, he's going to want to bring in guys that can play his wing-back roles. He's going to want to bring in very, very strong, solid defenders, midfielders that play his style. He wants a very good number 6, someone who can cover distance. So he's going to want that. Maybe Napoli are looking at it from the perspective, we're going to have the money to spend that he wants because we're going to have to sell Osimhen, which is going to bring in a lot of money. Potentially it can involve a deal to bring Lukaku to Napoli, and we know if Osimhen is going to Chelsea, and we know the ties between between Antonio Conte and Lukaku. Lukaku played some of his most brilliant in his career under Antonio Conte. So I think that's a perspective that definitely cannot be ignored here. Now, as far as the players at Napoli, the downfall this season, the managerial difference could have a huge problem between last season and this season. But also, it could just be a down year for the players. And I think bringing in a guy with the experience and the quality of coaching in Antonio Conte can revitalize the confidence in this team and show them that this team still has ability. Well, last year was not a fluke. And the next season, they're not going to be playing European football at all in general. So it gives Antonio Conte, a chance to focus in on Serie A. And when he had that opportunity at Chelsea, he won the Premier League at Chelsea. The success started to go a little down is when they had to worry about the Champions Leagues and all that. He doesn't have to worry about that next season. So I think Antonio Conte can come in and be a very good manager for Napoli if he gets what he wants when it comes to transfers and all that. If he gets what he wants, if he has the money that he wants, I think he can be a very, very good manager for Napoli. And I think it'll work. Now, it will be a different style of play, and that's something Napoli fans are gonna have to accept internally. They're gonna have to accept. They're not seeing the free-flowing type of football that they have been used to seeing this past decade or so. It's a little bit different, but they gotta realize this is a guy that has championship pedigree. So I'm very it's gonna be very interesting to see how it goes. We're gonna take a short break here. When we come back, I'm going to discuss Enzo Maresca's potential, of going to Chelsea. Chelsea, okay, I wrote Chelsea are approaching Enzo Maresca. It seems like it's a little bit more than that at this moment. It's looking like Enzo Maresca to Chelsea is, sounding to become more imminent. Enzo Maresca is a manager that has been an assistant to Pep Guardiola at Manchester City. He was an assistant to him, and then Enzo Maresca went on to do his own thing. To manage Leicester, where he brought them straight back up after spending a season in the championship, or in the Premier League. Oh yeah, in the championship, he brought them straight back up to the Premier League. And he did it with a very similar style of football to what they do at City when it comes to possession oriented football. I watched the coaching tribune. He did a video, a tactic breakdown, talking about the inverted fullback and the role of that. You can see the Pep Guardiola influence there. They do play very possession oriented football, tiki-taka style, and I guess that is what Chelsea, they want to be now. They want to fit that style of play. They want to be that football club, that forward-thinking, protagonist football club, all that. Even though I'm not a fan with Chelsea trying to, follow another model that hasn't been what Chelsea has been successful in historically. But this new ownership wants to come in and change it up. It is what it is. I'm gonna discuss this. I've discussed this previously, talking about my problems with the Chelsea ownership and how they're trying to change Chelsea, even though we've been a very, very successful club within the past few decades. I don't know why you try to change something that doesn't need to be fixed. If it's not broken, why are you trying to fix it? But I mean, that's a whole different conversation now. When it comes to Enzo Maresca, he has a CV of, he had a good season at Leicester. But is that enough? Now the style of play is there, and it seems like he has the composure of being a manager, and it seems like he has the mental capacity of being a manager that can come in and implement his system. He is Italian, and we've had a good history when it comes to Italian coaches. With Carlo Ancelotti, was Antonio Conte that I was just previously talking about, and Di Matteo, who came in and he won a Champions League. We have a good history of it with Italian coaches, but it's just a year of bringing Leicester City back up, and it is Leicester City team that was just generally more talented than all the other teams in the Championship. When you look at the fact that they had the Premier League parachute money, they're a very, very good side. For me, it's very, very concerning the fact that they're gonna have to that this guy, he's only been one season, and McKenna was a little bit of the same, even though he did bring Ipswich from promotion to Championship, but he didn't have that much experience at the top level. So I don't know. I think it's the style of play that's really wanted to convince Chelsea. He had a very good interview, and he had a very good in-depth knowledge about this Chelsea squad and all that. I don't know. I tend to not trust any decision this Chelsea ownership group made. I know y'all would understand why I'm, from my perspective, from what I've seen since they've came in. But, I'll see it happen. Now, it looked like the four options was McKenna, who, similar, just not that much experience at a top club. When you see the likes of De Zerbi, who, good out of Brighton, not that good this season, but the Brighton team is just not talented enough to compete anymore, and it was bound to happen. They suffered a lot of injuries this season. He was an option there. Thomas Frank, I think, was a great option, a very, very brilliant manager that makes his team better than the sum of their parts. Yes, they finished in the bottom half of the Premier League this season, but they were completely injury riddled, and I think he did good keeping them, within the Premier League. And then the last option, the fourth option I was talking about, is Enzo Maresca, who looks like Chelsea are settling on. Now, for me, I don't think any of this matter if Chelsea ownership don't have the patience to stick with whoever they go with. I mean, they bought us, they sold us this future plan that they have of trying to develop this team under Antonio Conte, and then under Mauricio Pochettino, and then what happens to end of the season? They don't give him, his thoughts when it comes to transfer and all that. And at the end of the day, Maresca, he's coming from a a point that he hasn't had that first big job in his career. In fact, he had that job at Parma where he came in mid-season, and the team ended up getting relegated and all that. And then what happened was, and then he had to bring in the Leicester back up. But apart from that, he hasn't really had a real top flight opportunity yet. So he doesn't really have a point to a back to say, oh, I want to be involved in the transfers. I want to help decide the players. I want my style of I need to bring this kind of fullback. He doesn't really have a chance for him to do that because he is a new manager. And I think Chelsea, they can't bring in a guy with experience that's won trophies and that has that top ability, because he's gonna go in there and he's gonna want to decide what players come in and what transfers to make and this or that, and bring in his style, his type of player, the way Ten Hag has been able to do at Manchester United, or the way Conte is gonna want to do at Napoli. The way any of these top managers that come in, they're gonna want their players. But Chelsea board, they need a little bit of a yes man in the team, and getting a guy with less experience like Enzo Maresca is perfect for that, for Chelsea, because they want to be complete in control. And it's guys that I don't trust to be in complete control of football operations. This sporting directors that came in, this two guys or whatever, this group, it's just, for me, it's very very shady, very weird. And I don't know if this is going to be a success. I don't know if this is a success. I think Chelsea have operated in a horrible manner in the past couple of years, and I think bringing in a yes man is just going to keep creating more issues over and over again, because the guys that are running football operations now within Chelsea, they are guys that made mistakes over and over and over and over again. Ever since Todd Bowley came in, at first it was just Todd Bowley and the co that was running it, but then now they're hiring sporting directors, and they're coming in and they're making even more mistakes, or they're just making mistakes just as bad as them. So I don't know what Chelsea are trying to build here. I'm very, very confused on it, and I'm not saying this as a downside to Enzo Maresca. He could probably come in and he could be a brilliant manager, but at the end of the day, his candidacy is mostly on the back of him not having experience and having gravitas to come into a job like Chelsea and to demand, oh yeah, okay, if I come in, I still need to decide, I need to bring in guys that play my style of football. I need to bring in, the way Pep Guardiola, when he went in, the manager that I assume he's trying to emulate. When Pep Guardiola came into Manchester City, they struggled the first season, and he was like, oh, I need to bring in 4 fullbacks. I need to bring in this guy. I need to bring in that. He doesn't have that kind of pedigree. He can't go into Chelsea and do that. Chelsea want a coach that just is a coach. They don't want a manager. They just want a coach to coach the players that they bring into the club. They want to decide what players go out. If Conor Gallagher goes out, Trevor Chalobah goes out, they want to decide who goes out. They want to decide anybody potentially coming in. They don't want the manager to have any control of, the squad in general. They just want the manager to coach the team. And for me, I don't like the fact that people that I don't trust, people that have no real understanding of creating a Champions League, a Premier League winning squad, having that kind of control of a team. I don't like that. And it's very, very concerning. And I feel like Chelsea might be on the verge of turning into a club like, United or Arsenal came in, and I don't want to make this an American thing, but that's came in and being taken by an American owner or an American consortium and has gone completely down the drain. And I'm very concerned that we might be looking at that with Chelsea. We're going to take a short break, or no, this is our final segment actually. Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sport Network. Your support means a lot to us. So please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. Thank you once again, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.